In this video, we're going to be talking about gear sprocket assembly kits for garage door opener motors, and we're going to provide you some pro tips to avoid common mistakes when replacing them. Let's party. Hey party people, Santiago from SOS Garage Door Service, and what are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about gear sprocket assemblies. A gear sprocket assembly is basically that gear mechanism that is what your chain and belt assembly on the rail will connect to the garage door opener motor. Here I have a sprocket on a chain drive for the Chamberlain 1/2 horsepower garage door opener motor, and as you can tell, this sprocket, it was about to shear. As you see that movement right there, you can tell that this sprocket was about to go. Now, what we want to do, and in this video, I'm not going to go over on how to replace this gear sprocket assembly. I didn't want to redo the how-to video that, quite frankly, there's a lot of them that you can find on YouTube that do a pretty good job. What I want to do is basically provide you some pro tips to avoid common mistakes replacing them. So you might have some dead giveaways on your garage door opener motor that will indicate that your gear sprocket assembly is compromised. Number one, your chain might be super loose or it continues to hang. Now, a hanging chain may not necessarily indicate that your gear sprocket assembly is bad, but it is a good indicator to let you know that perhaps something is going wrong or something is happening to your actual chain assembly. Therefore, look up above your garage door opener motor, and what you'll want to do is you'll want to see if that sprocket is being worn. You can see how this sprocket right here that I have on this example on this Chamberlain is actually moving, and there's a reason for that. The reason being is because there's balance to the garage door that's off, that's creating this jerking effect every time the sprocket turns. And that's going to be an important point, and we'll get to that later in the video. But again, indications that your gear sprocket assembly could be going bad is, number one, that chain is kind of loose. Number two, that sprocket to that garage door opener motor might be completely sheared off. So if that is the case and your garage door opener gear sprocket assembly is sheared off, again, that's just an underlining indication that there might be something wrong with the actual balance to the garage door. And therefore, what you'll need to do is you'll need to replace that gear sprocket assembly. A third indicator will be that, again, you'll hear the garage door opener turn, but you won't see that trolley carriage move. You won't see the chain or the belt rail assembly move, but you will notice that the motor is turning inside the garage door opener motor. Now, if that is the case, then what you're looking at is basically a sheared or a stripped out gear, nylon gear assembly. And so the nylon gear inside the garage door opener is usually what goes bad, and that's a good indicator that your garage door is just doing its thing. Normal wear and tear to a garage door opener chain or belt drive is perfectly normal, and it's these types of things that actually encourage us to buy these types of motor because they tend to last longer. In fact, the gear sprocket assembly being made of nylon puts less stress on the actual motor. And of course, there's also a warm gear drive inside the garage door opener gear sprocket assembly that you want to make sure that it's also not worn. So these two work into conjunction with the motor usage and how the actual motor operates with a chain or belt drive assembly. Now, there are a variety of gear sprocket assemblies that are available. For example, these are the double sprocket gear sprocket assemblies, and again, you can tell that it's wearing and tearing, and so clearly the double gear sprocket would fit for a specific need. It's usually on your 3/4 horsepower Liftmaster motors. It's usually on those motors that are going to be lifting a custom wood door. Very necessary. So you have a single sprocket and you also have your dual sprocket. Just keep in mind that whichever your garage door opener comes with, that's usually what you'll want to replace it with. Now, you can, if you don't happen to have a custom wood door, you can go from the dual sprocket over to the single sprocket. That's not a problem. But at the same rate, you just want to keep in mind that if you're willing to stay or if you're willing to purchase just the same type, you should be able to replace it with just the same type of gear sprocket assembly. So one of the pro tips that we want to provide you in this video is that what I see is customers that want to tackle this garage door opener project tend to buy the wrong gear sprocket assemblies. In fact, they're usually buying a gear sprocket assembly that is for a different brand that doesn't happen to work on the Liftmaster, Chamberlain, Anaheim door, Raynor, Craftsman, or any other variation that falls within line to the Chamberlain Group Corporation that manufactures these garage door opener motors. In other words, if it looks like a Liftmaster, if it smells like a Liftmaster, if it sounds like a Liftmaster, then you want to get a gear sprocket assembly for basically what is a Liftmaster or Chamberlain. These are the exact OEM products, OEM pieces, OEM parts that work on this garage door opener motor. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen customers buy something within the Genie line or something within the Linear line. They're just confused, or they're not 100% sure exactly what to buy. So obviously you want to make sure first what type of garage door opener you have. And again, this will specifically apply for the Liftmaster products, even though some of the same principles will apply for the Genie line and other brands. But we're specifically talking about anything under the Chamberlain Group Corporation, which they manufacture for all the names that we just mentioned here in this portion of the video. Now, another pro tip that we want to provide you when replacing this gear sprocket assembly to this type of garage door opener motor is making sure that you use lubrication on this nylon gear assembly. Vital, very vital. Real quick story for you. When I started out in the business, I was working for a contractor that had basically home warranties as contracts, and so they repaired a lot of garage door opener motors. And I remember one of my very first garage door opener repairs was on a Liftmaster product where I was replacing a gear sprocket assembly. And so what I did not do is I did not take the added or the included grease, the lithium grease that comes in the actual bag, in the replacement OEM part bag, and I did not apply it onto the nylon gear that we see right here. This nylon gear is where you're supposed to apply that lubrication. In fact, I didn't even apply it onto the warm gear assembly that's inside the garage door opener motor. Well, you pretty much can guess it. After a couple of weeks, the customer was calling back because the same problem was afflicting their garage door opener motor. So the whole point of this, again, the lithium grease that is provided in the gear sprocket assembly replacement is vital for the replacement of your new gear sprocket. So please do not forget to apply this type of grease onto the nylon gear. In fact, you're going to also want to apply it on the warm assembly or the warm gear assembly. And at the same time, you can even apply it onto the rail assembly to provide that extra lubrication that's needed for optimal performance. Now, another common mistake that you want to avoid is where your travel limits are set. This is to avoid misplacing the gear trolley carriage to the actual chain or belt assembly. And it's important to understand that we are dealing with AC garage door opener motors. So unlike the DC garage door opener motors that have everything digitally built inside, these have physical contact sensors that will determine the travel. And specifically when you're talking about your garage door sprocket shearing off, well, inside the travel limits are probably offset. It might possibly be that the travel trolley carriage is all the way close to the motor, when in fact the actual travel limit or the contact sensor is at the closed position. So again, when determining that, what you want to do is you want to make sure where exactly those contacts are located. What I usually do is basically operate the garage door opener motor and I will trip the sensors. If the sensors trip and the travel starts to open up and the garage door opener blinks, well then I know that that's where my up position is at. If I press the motor again and it closes without tripping the sensor, then I know it's in the down position. At either rate, if that pro tip helps you, it should help you to avoid the common mistakes when replacing gear sprocket assembly kits. And last but not least, garage door balance. Yes, party people, the garage door balance is usually the main, that is number one culprit when you're dealing with a damaged garage door gear sprocket assembly. In fact, This type of damage that shears off the sprocket is a clear indication that your garage door balance is off. Something within the garage door balance will always create problems, if not always to your door, especially to your motor. So keep in mind that garage door balance must be done periodically. Basically, you should be able to lift your garage door easily by hand by pulling on the emergency release cord, and you should be able to lift it up at the 3-foot level, 5-foot level, 7-foot level. If the garage door stays at any of those positions, then you know you have fairly good balance. Yet if there's any variance, closing at least a foot or more, or opening at least a foot or more, especially if it opens straight from the ground, then you know that your balance is off. And it's that shifting balance, that off balance, that's creating this shifting or jerking effect that is affecting the actual garage door sprocket assembly. So the common mistake that we want to avoid here is replacing that gear sprocket assembly and not tending to the garage door balance. You almost always want to tend to the garage door balance, but in order to do that, it's best to reach out to a contractor. Please don't try and repair or adjust your garage door torsion springs on your own without the proper tools and proper knowledge. This could be a recipe for disaster, and quite frankly, I don't want you to get hurt, party people. So again, the pro tip that we're providing you is to help you avoid these common mistakes. That normal maintenance will help the longevity, it'll help in the actual use, or it'll help in the actual operation of your garage door opener motor. So if replacing your gear sprocket assembly sounds like a party to you, please check out the affiliate links down below. They should be able to provide you some options with regards to some gear sprocket assemblies that might work for your garage door opener motor. And of course, if you have any questions about a garage door opener gear sprocket assembly, please leave one down below. I'd love to be able to hear from you. Now, I have to reiterate that the pro tips, techniques, and ideas in these videos should not be considered law or infallible. Why? Because I am nobody. This channel is designed to provide you pro tips and tech reviews for all your residential garage door needs. So if you found any value in that, please smash that like button. Smashing the like button would truly help out this channel. In fact, check out this other video right here that can provide you more pro tips and tech reviews for all your residential garage door needs. I want to thank you for partying with me and watching this video, and as always, y'all stay safe.